I think of Bitcoin as like that shining city in cyberspace where billions of people will eventually want to live, right? Instead of moving from Europe to America or moving from the old world to the new world or whatever, or moving from the planet to cyberspace. We can't move to outer space yet. I can't get 1 billion people off the planet and settle on a better Earth. But I can move 1 billion people to cyberspace. Bitcoin is property in cyberspace. It's 21 million city blocks in cyber Manhattan. The people that move there first, right, get to buy the land cheapest. And then, how many people will eventually want to live there? Unlike Manhattan, where there's a limit, there's really no limit. Why wouldn't everybody want to live there, right? I mean, I don't know that there won't be other cities in cyberspace that might meet other needs. I mean, I suppose if the Chinese made it illegal to own Bitcoin, but there was a Chinese Bitcoin, there might be a Chinese version of Bitcoin in cyberspace, kind of like Alibaba, and Ant and WeChat kind of branched off from Facebook and Google and Amazon. So there might be some other digital dominant monetary networks, but Bitcoin is the greatest monetary network that the human race has ever developed, and it's certainly the dominant one right now, and it looks like it's going to be continue to be the dominant one for as long as we live. What makes it dominant? Well, I mean, clearly the architecture is proof of work, or in other words, throwing up a wall of encrypted energy, right? It's all of the crypto hash power that's channeling energy through the hashing function, which creates the stability and the security. And so it's based upon the architecture, but ultimately the appeal of it is that it's an open, permissionless protocol that everybody on Earth can engage in. Anybody can mine it, anybody can contribute security to the network, and anybody can run their own node, and anybody can own it, and then any company can plug into it. And so there's nothing that open. There is no monetary protocol or asset or currency that is so open as the Bitcoin asset. And so that's what's driving its value right now. It's an opportunity for people that have little to lose and much to gain. It's an opportunity for everybody, though. I mean, the way I think of it is, it's a moral imperative, a technical imperative, and an economic imperative. Morally, it's an imperative because it's the best hope for 8 billion people to secure their property rights. If I give you a $50 Android phone, you can carry around in the Android wallet your property, and no bank or no hostile regime can seize it. And and that's the best property right you're ever going to get. I think it's a technical imperative for the same reason. You've got 8 billion mobile phones that will all have property, and so what's more important, storing your photos and your videos on your mobile phone, or storing all your money, all your life force on your mobile phone? I mean, you're worried about losing the photos you took on your iPhone, or you're worried about losing your life savings? Clearly it's more valuable. So it's a technology imperative for an Apple and Amazon and Google and Facebook, and companies like Square and PayPal and Binance and Coinbase are already extraordinarily successful by embracing it. You can see that right now. And finally, it's an economic imperative because there's $500 trillion worth of fiat derivatives, cash and bonds and stocks and real estate that's valued based upon cash flows, and all of those things are being devalued at 1% a month, something. So we can go back and forth over what's the rate of currency expansion, but it's not that hard to see that this is a $25 to $50 trillion a year problem for anybody with assets on Earth. It's very rare that you find a technology that's the solution to every rich person's problem and every poor person's problem simultaneously. Yeah, well, Netscape didn't make it to $1 trillion in market value in 10 years, right? If we calculate the amount of monetary energy on the network, Bitcoin would be more successful than Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, or Microsoft. In fact, it would be more, and it's much more successful than Netscape or AOL or anything from that genre. those things never got to 1/100th, right? I think Netscape, at its peak, was maybe 1/20th, 1/30th, 1/40th of what we're seeing in front of us right now. And the difference really is there is no technology and architecture that's appropriate to replace it. The solution to the issue of long duration asset or long duration safe haven store of value is a very secure crypto asset network. And so Bitcoin is the single most secure network in the world. It's the most secure database in the world. It's the most secure asset in the world. The way that you make it secure is through the extraordinary decentralization combined with the way that it converts energy into a very specialized SHA-256 hash function. So in order to attack that network, it would take extraordinary time and effort and energy and resources. It's pretty much the most secure thing we've got in cyberspace. The actual cost is, nominally 0.1% of the energy used in the world, but the economic value of the energy is not even 10 basis points. It's like 3 basis points. So you're talking about it's almost, if you put it on a sheet of paper, it would be like a couple of dots, but you can't even see it. The overall energy generated in the economy is like 160,000 terawatt hours, and the wasted energy is 50,000 terawatt hours, and Bitcoin is 120 out of 50,000 wasted energy. So it really is insignificant as an energy load on the environment. But if you dig a bit deeper, you'll find that actually Bitcoin is much cleaner energy than all the rest of the applications. Cars, planes, trains, automobiles. It's pretty obvious planes use fossil fuels. There's no hope for them not to. Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin is actually something that runs on electricity. It doesn't run on fossil fuels. Most cars still use fossil fuels, and even electric cars are charged at charging stations that are charged with fossil fuels. So the environmentalists ultimately are going to focus upon the energy grid, and if they want to shut down fossil fuels or change the energy mix away from coal or something, they'll do that. Bitcoin is the highest value application of energy on a wholesale basis that we have in the world. There's nothing more valuable. There's no more valuable use of energy than Bitcoin. The latest generation of SHA-256 miners, they will generate almost 45 cents a kilowatt hour in value, which means you can take them anywhere on Earth to the North Pole. You can put a nuclear reactor on the North Pole and run Bitcoin mining from it. You can plug them into wind generators 1,000 miles out into a desert. You can plug them into geothermal on an island like Iceland, and you can generate 45 cents a kilowatt hour. The typical residential electricity cost is 13 cents a kilowatt hour. Industrial usage in the first world is 11 cents a kilowatt hour. And all of that energy has to be co-located with the factories and the people. Right? We don't have an industrial application of energy like Bitcoin that you can put anywhere on Earth. So what's the result? The result is that Bitcoin is used to recycle stranded energy or wasted energy. If you have a hydroelectric dam and you have a lot of energy, but you don't have people to use it, well, the dam is generating energy year-round, but the people don't need it, but maybe a few months a year, or maybe they don't need it in the evening. They just need it during the day to run their air conditioners. Like air conditioning is a great example of a cycling energy use. Bitcoin is a perfect energy battery because you can run it at night while the people are asleep and the air conditioning is off. And so you level out energy consumption on the grid, thereby driving down the cost of energy for everybody on Earth. And for any plant that would otherwise be decommissioned, you have a use for it if you don't want to decommission it. And of course, as you can imagine, the sun shines in the desert where people don't live, and the wind blows in places where people don't live, and volcanoes, and geothermal energy exists where people don't want to live. those are three sources of energy. They're all sustainable, renewable energy. But if you know anything about power engineering, you know you can't move electricity more than 500 miles on a grid.